So, what we're talking about today is document setup, panels, and some of the tools that you will be using most often with Photopea and by extension Photoshop. Uh, Photoshop and Photopea are very similar. Photopea is a very minimal version of Photoshop. Some of the functions and tools are actually basically the exact same. Some of the names might be a little different. You might have to do a little searching for some of the functions. Like if you click on like file or edit or image or something, some of the functions just might be in a different spot. Okay. So what I want to talk about first is document setup, creating a new file or opening an existing one. Okay. If you we'll start with open from computer first because it is relatively simple. Okay. Open from computer, you're just going to open a file, from your computer. I have a specific JPEG that I'm just going to open up. Boom, it's a headshot of me. I've opened a file from my computer. Most likely the ones that you're going to be using are JPEGs, PNGs, and PDFs. You might work with TIFFs, which is .tiff, but with Photopea, it's all, I mean, it's a TIFF file is really just a smaller version of a photo of a massive photo file. It makes things easier to open. But at least for me, majority of what I work with are PNGs with a transparent background, image files, JPEG, general image files, JPEGs, or PDFs. I'm going to go ahead and just close that one out because I don't need it right now. Opening from a new project or opening a new project, it's going to give you a bunch. It's going to give you a bunch of templates. Everything that is over here. So if you look on the left side of the screen, you can name your project. We'll just project 1. Talking about the width and the height. You have pixels, percentage, millimeters, and inches. As we go through this class, through rendering throughout the rest of the semester, we're going to be using both inches and pixels. I like to use inches when setting up the document because it guarantees that I'm creating something that will, for me, that will be printable. Okay, we don't have to worry about printing anything because our class is going to be online. But like normally I'll look at this and I'll be like, okay, I will set it up to like 11 by 17, 8.5 by 11, whatever the paper size is. Okay, DPI is digital. I think it's digital pixels per inch. It's the pixels per square inch. Okay, when looking at web view versus print view, 72 DPI is decent for web view. Like if you're going to leave something on your website online, it's just something digital that people are going to see. 72 is decent because the fewer the pixels, the smaller the file size. And when it says 72, like 72 DPI, literally what it means is one by 1 inch square, there are 72 little pixels. Okay, and pixels are, you know, the little square, little like dots, little squares that make up an image file. Okay, when we work with pixels, we're working with a raster file. You know, we talked about with Vectorworks, what is a vector versus what is a raster. A vector is something, it's very smooth lines, it doesn't work with pixels. It is something that is infinitely editable. Whereas image file, when working with an image file, we do have to rasterize it. We have to turn it into something that is printable. And in order for it to be printable, we have to work with pixels, with raster images. Okay. When you're going to print something, it is best to work with 300 DPI. Okay, that's 300 pixels per square inch. It makes the file size larger, but it also makes the image far more clear. I'm sure you've all seen those images where it's like, even though it's like, if it's this big, it's super crazy blurry. That's because chances are it has a lower resolution. It has a lower DPI. So when it's something, when you're looking for, if you're looking for a high resolution image, or you're looking for an image online as a source, always look for high resolution photos, because especially as we move forward with the class, there's going to be times where I'm going to say you need to go to Google or something, and you need to find a texture. You need to find a picture of a cat or a sofa or something. You got to find something. Having a high resolution photo, having something that's 300 DPI, or something where, it'll, if you're in Google, it will tell you the size of an image in pixels, and the larger those numbers, the more clear the photo is going to be for you to work with. Yeah. This last one, background, you have white, transparent, and background. This is literally just background for you to work on top of. White, self-explanatory, it's white. Transparent is great for PNG work, or if you don't plan to fill the entire space. Like, I have my project set up for 17 by 11. If I'm not going to use the full 17 by 11, if I'm not creating a massive rectangle, and I'm just using, say like I'm creating swirls, or I'm working on the picture of an animal, or a specific piece of furniture, and it takes up like 16.5 by 11.5, then transparent's great, because what it'll do is, when you print it, it will just print white. But if I go to use it for something else, like say I want to use this sofa, because, okay, your first assignment is going to be, you're going to be working on a collage of a bedroom, and we'll get more into that next week. But say you want to pull that sofa in, what transparent does is it makes it super easy to pull just the sofa, instead of having to, select around the sofa, delete the background, and then make sure everything is selected properly, and then drag it into another file and make sure it's there. Like, having a transparent background can be really helpful when you're doing something like that, or if you're creating a file from the ground up. Like when I worked for Busch Gardens, and I had to do a bunch of graphic design work for various scenic elements, I would start with a transparent background, and it just makes everything just, I guess you could say, clean and organized. For me, what made things more clean and organized. So I'll just hit transparent because I like hitting transparent, and I can hit create. What you also have down here are standard sizes for social media, for printing, for photos, for mobile, ads, screen, things like that. Okay, which is super cool. It's super helpful. We're not going to get into this much. Okay, we're going to be doing a lot of our own, either creating from the ground up, or we're going to be creating off of something that I'm going to be providing you. Okay, our first project you'll be creating basically from the ground up. The next two, for those of you who've already looked at the assignments, you'll be working with renderings that are given to you. Has anybody looked at those assignments yet? You guys are gonna get kicked out of the costume design one. It's hilarious, because it's a hazmat suit. Anyway, any questions on creating a new file? Okay, so I'm just go ahead and click create. It creates a background. Okay, 11 by 17, and shows no background, transparent background. Let's see, view. If you go to view, if you don't have the rulers, I like to work with rulers, okay? So I'm gonna show the rulers in there, there we go. Okay, I wanna talk about saving as different file types, okay? So if you go up to File, you have Save as PSD. A PSD is a Photoshop file, okay? If you don't plan on using Photoshop, don't worry about it. Export as, you can export as a PNG, a JPEG, SVG, GIF, PDF, all of these different file types. We're going to be focusing on PNG, JPEG, and PDF, okay? JPEG is your standard image file, okay? And I say standard because that's what we're used to. We're used to seeing JPEGs everywhere. For those of you who haven't noticed it, you've probably also saved things as a PNG without noticing it. Sometimes Google Images will save as a PNG if that's the way they're uploaded to those individual websites. A TIFF file is just a way of taking a larger file and scaling it down. For example, when I worked at Busch Gardens, I had to create an 8-foot by 4-foot banner in Photoshop because I wasn't as familiar with Illustrator. And, you know, a 4-foot by 8-foot banner is a massive thing. It's big for Photoshop. And so saving it as a TIFF file helps reduce the file size. So then it's something that I can more easily, one, save to my own computer and not take up as much space, but two, it's something that I can send to the vendor to print off on canvas or fabric or whatever it is that I needed. Okay. But for the most part, we're going to be working with PNG, JPEG, and PDF. We all know what a PDF is. But if I would just go click PDF, save for web, you can even the save for web window, you can choose which file type you want to save it as. It'll put it in pixels because when it's saving for web, that's what it's going to do. We're going to do like the standard for working with websites is you're working with pixels. Okay. Quality 100%, rasterize all, rasterize text, vectorize text. Rasterize is making things have pixels. Vectorize is making things not have pixels. Okay. I'm just going to leave those unchecked for now because we haven't done anything. I'm going to hit save. And because we've already saved it, I've named it Project 1 at the beginning. It saves it into my downloads folder. Okay. And the reason right now why I can't click save is because I don't have anything here. Okay. One of the things with Photoshop and Photopea, if you've worked on something and you save it, what's great I think it's great, is you can't save anymore. You can tell if you have saved or have not saved by whether or not it will actually let you save. Like, kind of like with Vectorworks, where it's like you try to save and down in the corner it'll say no changes to save. It's basically the same thing. But with Photopea and Photoshop, it straight up won't even let you click it because there's no point. Okay, moving into panels. So our panels over here on the right-hand side, okay, we have history, swatches, layers, channels, paths, we're not going to get into. Okay, this is where I'm going to open back up my face. So the history panel tells you the history of every single action you've done. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on this, just click on this tool right here, the rectangle select tool. You can also hit the letter M on your keyboard. What's great with Photopea and Photoshop, the hotkeys are the exact same between Mac and PC. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to marquee around my face. I'm going to rectangle select around my face. For those of you using Photoshop, rectangle select is called marquee. Okay. Up here in history, rectangle select is shown. It shows that I have done something. Okay. I can go back to the selection tool. I can move my face, and that also shows up in the history. Now, I have a couple options. If I don't like this, I'm like, oh no, I moved my face. I didn't want to move my face. This is terrible. I can hit Command Z to go back. So edit undo is Command Z or Control Z. Redo, it should be like normal. On PCs, it should be Control Shift C or it should be Control Shift Z. On Mac, it is Command Shift Z, okay, to redo. Now I've done all this stuff. I'm gonna move, let's do that. I'm gonna deselect it. I'm gonna select another thing and I'm gonna move it. And I'm doing like a Picasso thing just for now. Beautiful, right? Everything I've done shows up in the history panel. Say I don't like this. Say I'm like, this is terrible, this is horrible, I want to start all over again. Where it says open, when you scroll up where it says open, click open, and it'll take you back to what it was when you opened the file. Okay. Swatches. So the color swatches here. It starts out with your standard colors. You have red, green, blue, cyan, magenta, yellow, black, gray, and white. Okay. As you go through, and we'll get more into tools on Wednesday, and it'll show it then. Or we'll get more into it then. Swatches, it shows, basically, it's the history of the colors you've been working with. Okay. So say I'm going to work with a specific red. I want to work with a burgundy color. I'm going to hit the color picker down here. I just clicked on the color. I clicked and dragged for the color I want to use. I hit OK. You notice up in the swatch, the burgundy, in swatches panel, the burgundy color shows up. Okay. And that's just for every single color that you use. Every single color you select or click on, it's going to show up there in swatches. Okay. Ooh, wrong one. Okay. Next is channels. So channels, when you have a layer selected, and we'll get to layers in a second, channels is where you can turn off certain colors. Because we know working with, this is an RGB color mode. We're working on the computer, so it uses red, green, and blue. You can choose to turn off the red, the green, or the blue. Okay? Or you can just turn it all off. Okay? And really what it does is it just makes it invisible. Okay? If you subtract at least 2 of them, then it just goes to black and white. It's not a bad picture, black and white. Okay. And that's it with channels. It's pretty simple. I don't use them that often. Okay, layers panel. You will be using this panel constantly. Okay, and if you're not using it, then, well, you're not doing something correctly. So with the layers panel, it functions similarly to the layers panel, to layers in the navigation palette and Vectorworks. Okay, You can create a variety of layers, as many as you want, and you can do stuff to them, okay? When I'm opening a file, like I'm starting with a photo, if I start with a photo, I'll always name it background, okay? If you wanna rename something, just double click it, you can rename it, me. Hit enter, and it'll rename it, okay? This, we'll do paint. So we're gonna do some paint. We'll just do some quick painting on it so you can see what it does. Okay, I'm going to use the paintbrush tool. Like I said, we'll get more into tools on Wednesday. This is just to show you awesome stuff that you can do with the layers palette. Okay, so I'm going to change my color because that burgundy color is really close to everything. We use pink. So who doesn't love pink? I'm going to color my hair. It's a beautiful wig. If you guys want to get back to the selection tool, okay, this is where going between Photoshop and Vectorworks, we got to be careful because I've used the same hotkeys in both, and they're not the same thing unless you set it up that way. If you hit V, it will bring you back to the Move tool, it's your selection tool. Okay, so I've done that. Now I've given myself a pink wig. Jumping back really quick, how you create a new layer is down here. You have a button. You have new layer. You can create a layer. That's how you just create a new one. Hit that one, boom, it's good to go. If you want to delete it, right here, delete layer, the little trash can, it goes away. Duplicating a layer. Sometimes you'll want to duplicate a layer because maybe you like the effect of the first one, but it's not as strong, and so you want to duplicate it to get double the effectiveness. Okay, you're going to right click on the layer you want to duplicate and hit duplicate layer, and it will create it as a copy. Okay, you can double click it and rename it if you want it. Wig 2. But that's how you duplicate. Renaming we got into. Merging. Okay, so say I'm going to take wig 2. I deleted the wig. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to use cyan. I'm going to color my beard. Okay. It reminds me of cotton candy. When you want to merge something, so right now I have my wig and my beard on separate layers. If I have the beard layer selected, I can click and move just the beard, okay? If I go to select the wig, it won't let me move it, okay? I have to make sure that the wig layer is selected, and then I can move it. Well, what if I want to move both at once? You have two options. One, you can shift click. Okay, so I have wig selected, hold down the shift button, click beard, and I can drag them both around, and they stay as separate layers. You can also select them both, right click, and click merge layers. What that does is it turns it into one editable layer. Okay, you can still edit both the wig and the beard. Okay, you can still edit the multiple objects, but now it says one layer. So you have to be careful because there are ways that you can select different things. And when you're working with a merge layer, like I only merge a layer after my work is completely done. And even then, I very rarely merge layers. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. I hit Command Z so that I can have this. I'm going to create some new other layers just for sampling, because talking about folders, what are folders? You know how in Vectorworks we could group objects, right? Where it's like it's one group, but it has multiple objects in it. Folders in Photopea or grouping in Photoshop is very similar, okay? But you do it specifically with layers. So if I have wig and beard, and I want them in a group, but I'm like, oh my gosh, this is 6 layers. That's far too much for me to look at. And I don't want to, if I want to turn things on and off, I don't want to have to click a bunch, okay? So you're going to shift click the layers that you want, right click. Oh no, that's in Photoshop. Okay. You have to go up to, so you're going to shift click, go up to layer, new, folder. Okay. Why is this? There we go. Okay. So please excuse me. It's not shift click layer, found new layer. It's just layer, new, folder. And then where, depending on what's in your folder, you have to click the individual layers and drag them into the folder. You click and drag it so it's like hovering above the folder, and then it'll place it in. These little drop-down arrows, boom, instantly cleans up my layers panel. Okay. Folder 6 was beard and wig. I can get this visibility button right here. I can go ahead and click that, and it instantly turns things off. Then go ahead and turn it back on. I can hit the drop-down arrow, click and edit whatever I want. I use, again, in Photoshop, it's groups. In here, in Photopea, it is folders. I use them a ton. For example, I'm doing a design for Ohio Light Opera this summer, and I have digital renderings of their stage so that I can put my set on it. What I've done is the portals, the masking, the stage floor, the orchestra pit, everything that I know is going to be a permanent thing, something that I can't alter. I will put all of it into a group and then turn on and off the visibility button if I need to turn those things on and off. Okay. When you look in your group, if your, what was that? Sorry, my emails keep popping up and I gotta make sure that I'm not missing anything from class, from everybody. Because we're online now and everything is absolutely exciting. In your folder or in your group, if you have something turned off, okay, say I just turned off my beard, okay, and I go to turn off the group, okay, nothing's there. I go to turn the group back on, it will only turn on what's visible. Like the beard did not turn on because it is not turned on in the group. Okay. Blending mode and opacity. I'm going to delete folder 8 because I don't want it. Okay, so blending mode and opacity. I really like these tools. Opacity is up here. You're gonna have to have the layer selected and it affects the entirety of the layer. And it literally, if I drop this down from 100% to 50%, hit enter, It lowers the opacity. Okay, makes it see-through so you can see see the layers and objects behind it. Relatively simple to work with. I'm going to bump it back up to 100, not 1,000, 100. Blending modes. This drop-down arrow right here where it says normal, you have all these different selections. Okay, these are called blending modes. Okay, and when you change the opacity and blending mode, it should show up in your history panel as well. Okay, what this does is it adds some special effects to your layers for showing and not showing the layers underneath. Okay, when you're working with layers, so these layers right here, I have it goes me, wig, beard. Okay, whatever is on the bottom is the furthest back. Okay, so if you're looking at, I'll drag this over here so y'all can see me real quick. When you're looking at layers, like if you have your background, here's the photo of me, and then I have my wig in front of that, and then I have the beard in front of that. Even though the beard is not sitting on top of the wig, that's how the program functions, is that it's very much, the layers act like they're one in front of the other. Like, okay, so I have beard selected. If I went and move my beard up here, you can see that the beard is on top of the wig. If I go into my layers panel and I shift beard beneath wig, it disappears behind the wig. Okay? Go back because I don't want the beard behind the wig. Okay. Sorry, I made a face because I moved the Zoom videos and everything changed. Any questions about working with what we've talked about so far? Okay. So blending modes, get into beard, working with beard. It's like I said, it's different things. It's different ways of showing the layers behind a layer you're working with. So with beard, I can hit multiply, and it does one effect. Okay, things like this are great. I love working with stuff like this because then I can like zoom in. And I'm like, I don't want my beard to be on top of my teeth. And I can erase everything that's on top of my teeth. Okay. There we go. And that's one thing you can do. You can also do something like, I use soft light a lot. Okay. You can use color. What color does, color is cool because what it does is it takes the layer behind and essentially turns it into the colors of the layer you're working on. Okay, like I use this cyan color for the beard, and even though it's not on the same layer, like I can still turn beard on and off, and you can see my background image, my background layer is still the same. But essentially, what it shows you is what would happen if the background layer had that, like, was that color. Like imagine a black and white image, but instead of white, it's black and cyan. Okay. Any questions about blending mode? Okay. Blending modes are something that you'll play with. There's some of them I still play with and trying to figure out what ones work the best for each application. I'll set that back to normal. Okay. Now we're going to get into some tools. Move tool. We've talked about it already. It's right here. If you go to the left side of your screen, you have your tools right here. The very top one is the move tool. You can hit V. It's like the selection tool in Vectorworks. You can click, you can drag. Okay? It's literally as its name says, it's used for moving things. Then you have the rectangular select. That's just below it. You hover over it, says rectangular select or hotkey M. You notice that it has a little arrow right here, okay? If a tool has that little arrow, that means there's actually more tools there for you to select. If you click and hold, for this one it'll show rectangle select and ellipse select. If you're in Photoshop, it should say rectangular marquee and ellipse marquee, plus a couple others that we won't really get into with what we do for this kind of rendering. Okay, so if I have rectangle selected, what I can do is I can select a space. Okay, I can select an area that I want to essentially move or want to work with. Okay, if you use the rectangle tool, okay, I'm in the wig layer now. If I rectangle select something, if I'm still in the select tool, all it will do is move the box. Okay, it'll move the rectangle that I've drawn. If I go back to the select tool, it will move and alter just that section of the wig that I have altered. Okay. On the same layer, if I'm using the paintbrush tool and I'm changing, use a different crazy color, green. It will let me paint only within the selection box. Okay. This tool is great for when you want to select very specific things. Okay, or it works the same way if you're deleting something. Okay, if I want to delete just this little piece right here, I can marquee it or rectangle select. I can hit delete and it will delete just that little chunk. Okay. The same goes for ellipse select. Ellipse select is used to make circles. Okay. If you want to make a perfect circle, click, hold down shift, and it will create a perfect circle. There's your circle. If you want to get rid of something, if you want to get rid of the marquee, like, okay, I've used the rectangular select, I want to get rid of it, just click outside of it and it will go away. Okay. Lasso tool. Lasso tool is going to come in a lot of help. You have lasso select, polygonal lasso select, and magnetic lasso select. Okay, we're going to start with lasso. I'm going to turn off my beard and wig. Okay, what lasso select does is it lets you select a very organic selection. Okay. So I selected something very specific. You can now see that's the selection I made. It's very organic, very free form. And if you want to get rid of it, just click outside of it like I just did. Okay? You have to click, hold, and drag. As soon as you let go, it's going to finish the shape. Okay? Click outside of it, it's gone. Polygonal lasso select, similar in function, but it works like the polyline tool in Vectorworks. Okay? It's a bunch of straight lines. And then to finish it, you have to double click. There we go. I just use the paint bucket tool so you guys can see like what I drew. because even the lines that the rectangles select and lasso tools create can be a little difficult for even me to see. Okay, this last lasso tool, the magnetic lasso tool, I love this one. I mean, I love all these tools, but this one is incredibly helpful because if you click, why is it not clicking? Oh, maybe on this one. Click, and as you drag, it's a little difficult to see because the line is so small. What it does is it's basically a smart lasso. What it does is the lasso will try to follow the lines in the image. Okay? And you can click and it'll create a point. Keep going. And I ended it by clicking where I started, and this is where it marqueed. Or not marqueed, it selected. Okay? It's a great tool. Sometimes it's a little difficult to work with because the magnet won't magnet to what you're selecting, okay, or what you want selected. So you have to, this is where you have to click. So if I'm going up the side of my face, I'd have to click at like the corner of my hair. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, I was on the wrong layer. Click, have it go up the side of my face. I'm going to click here because I want that point. Basically, wherever there's like a corner, quote unquote, is where you want to click to tell it that's like there's a corner there and I don't want you to awkwardly round it out. I'm going to keep going, keep going, keep going, and the click, and it completely got rid of my chin, but my hairline is better selected. There you go. Okay. Up next. Okay. You have the tool Object Selection, Quick Selection, Magic Wand. We're going to talk about the Magic Wand. Okay. Magic Wand is used for selection. What Magic Wand does is you click and it selects an area of color that the program deems like this makes sense. Okay. You can adjust this with up at the top of the screen where it says tolerance. The lower the number, the more accurate it gets. So if I hit 40 and I use it, it will select everything within a certain range of pixels that the program thinks makes sense when I click on this brown color. If I go back to 15, you see it selects fewer. Okay, it gets more specific with the color selection. Okay. Leave anti-alias checked. Contiguous, what this means is if I have a low tolerance and I uncheck contiguous, what it will do is it's going to select everything in the image that is close to that color. If I have contiguous checked, it's only going to select pixels that are touching what you're selecting. So like without contiguous checked, I had like awkward pixels in my face selected. Contiguous, if those pixels aren't directly touching this selection, it's not going to select them. Okay. If you have something selected, if you edit, copy, then edit, paste, hang on. There we go. And make sure Photopea has access to your clipboard. But if you copy and paste, the paste will become a new layer. Okay? After that, we have crop. The crop tool right here, we're just going to focus on basic crop for now. Create your crop space. Create your rectangle. You can adjust it as need be. Hit the check mark, and it crops it. It's going to crop the entire document, not just the layer. Hit Command Z to go back. Okay, down at the bottom of the tools, you have pan and zoom. Pan, because let me zoom in a little bit. There we go, it's this button. I'm gonna zoom in real close. If I have the pan button selected, I can move around the object, much like you would if you're using a scroll bar. If you have a different tool selected and you want to pan, you can also hold down the space bar, you get the little glove, and you can do it that way. And then when you release the space bar in the mouse, it goes back to showing you the little crosshair, okay, for the tool that you were originally in. Zoom, it automatically is set to zoom in. Click and zoom in. If you hold Alt, it will zoom out. Okay? When you're working with selection tools, if I'm using the rectangle select, I've drawn this, and I say, well, I want a little bit of my face added. I can hold down Shift, click, create another rectangle, and it includes it in the selection. See how I did that? If I want to remove part of it, I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and it will remove whatever I don't want. See how it removed a chunk of the rectangle up here and a chunk of the rectangle down here. Okay. All right, that is, I'm looking at what I want us to do today. Are there any questions over what we went through today? Any at all? Okay, fantastic. So I am going to end the meeting here. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email me, okay? I am available. We're going to be doing this the exact same way every Monday and Wednesday moving forward. You are not required to join in, but you are more than welcome to. All right? All y'all have a great day.